300 days into Trump's presidency now. 300. And 300 in numbers comes to Donald John Trump, 185, plus 11.5. So that was the election, 11.5 last year. 11.5 comes to intelligence, 11.5 comes to art of the deal. So Donald John Trump, 185, art of the deal, 11.5 or 115. You add those together, that comes to 300. Makes me think of Sparta. This is Sparta, 300. So who's in the chat? Are we getting censored on this one again? It's amazing. We had a let off with YouTube, and now it seems to be doing its stuff again. Come on, YouTube. Come on. Come on. I can say that to you. We've got a good relationship. Come on. So, new viewers, A is 1, B is 2, C is 3. It's the order of the alphabet. And you can see I'm here at the ferry point. And yeah, bit of variety, bit of different view for you today. So it's overcast, but thankfully it's dry, but it's overcast. Although there is some kind of breaking of cloud over there, which may or may not reach us in time. I think it might just have a nice sunset, but I don't know if it will get over this way by that time. Hey Nadine. Hey Wendy. Yeah, I think they might be squashing us a little bit on this one today. Let's see what happens in the next 30-45 seconds. Anthony Crouch, are you related to Peter? Peter Crouch is funny. I do like Peter. Let's see what happens. People park with their engines on. Come on, turn your engine off. No, they're not going to do that. They're going to just smoke us out. Oh dear. The NPCs, they don't think about stuff. They just sit there with their engine on, so it's noisy, and we can smell it. Yeah, he's just going to sit there and smoke us out. Go on mate, turn it off. Oh, he's thinking about it. He might turn it off. Oh, he's going to turn around, he's going to go. That's even more of a result, he's going to leave. That's perfect, he's going to go. That's even better. That's even better, go on, off you go. He's gone. Bingo, what a result. He didn't turn his engine off, he came and left, and he's gone. So, okay, but it's still a bit exhausting. Ugh. I've never liked exhaust fumes. I remember when I don't think I've shared this before, so when I was younger, I'd cycle to college in the morning, and it was around the time when I was 17, 17, and I would always pull up my t-shirt or my hoodie or whatever I had on to cover my nose and mouth. So I guess early premonitions of masking, although I never wore the mask, except for the only time on aeroplanes when they muzzled you, but other than that I never wore it, ever. They were going to actually stop the plane because I wouldn't wear one. Yeah, I was in the epicenter in London, where it was supposed to be death central, the Black Plague, and I survived everything, funnily enough. But yeah, I used to do that. I hated the exhaust fume, so I used to pull it up. And I used to always see the MR2 Toyotas. Does anyone know what they are? Have they seen those? Yeah, we're getting censored. We've got 72 in the chat right now. 72 is Bitcoin, 28 thumbs up is bank. So we're getting censored. YouTube doesn't want us to talk about this. A lace mask. I saw someone did a woolly mask, like a knitted one. So it was like, but they were Nazis on the aeroplane for sure. And it was nothing to do with anything that they purported. It was all to do with compliance, being obedient to the system. And unfortunately for them, I've never really been one of those. So, yeah, Neo's always fighting against the system. Neo 34, Tam 34, 34 in the chat. There you go. 76, Thomas 34, and people want to get in on my YouTube show. And now they don't. I think they might have heard that, so that's good. Mariano, good to see you, mate. Okay, so title of today's show, feeding on from yesterday, where will Bitcoin go to effing zero? So there's a video that was put out famously quite a while ago by a gentleman that I actually in another life know, and he predicted that when people find out who is behind Bitcoin, it will go to I can say on here fucking zero. Okay, that's what he says. And I put out tweets back in August. I think I probably mentioned it on the YouTube, but I definitely put a tweet out because I found it and reposted it. Hey Stephen, I put a tweet out suggesting that when people find out who this person is that's behind Bitcoin, it will drop to zero. And I said, could it be Epstein? And now it looks like it is. So apparently Epstein, because of the new, I guess, drip feeding of the files, he was behind the funding of Bitcoin Core. Which I think is, from my brief analysis of it, is the funding mechanism behind kind of setting it all up, or one of the key technologies, a key piece anyway, Bitcoin Core. So, and I guess if that grows legs, which it probably will do, that could, as with all of this, they kind of seed things out and then eventually kind of it kicks in. But something like that, money markets can change really quickly. And so, just a reminder, Bitcoin 72, swamp 72, money 72, first 72. So Bitcoin could be the first thing to go to flip. I also did another tweet, probably around a similar sort of time. I haven't found it yet, but some of you can find it. Where I did a kind of inverted pyramid. So you had a coin called Avalanche. I don't really know much about Avalanche, but it's there. And then Bitcoin, next one. So it was the alphabetical order. And then down at the bottom, you've got XRP and XLM and XDC, the X coins at the bottom. And I was like, well, what happens if to an avalanche? When all the snow falls and melts and takes everything down with it, i.e. Bitcoin, because that's near the top. Where will it all go? It will go into the valley below, which will be all the X coins, the ISO coins. Anyway, so I saw that and I put that out a few months ago. So everything's all lining up, folks. It's all lining up. Swamp 72, Bitcoin 72. We knew, I've said it a number of times, that it was a slush fund for the cabal. And so eventually it looks like that's going to happen, and probably sooner rather than later. Oh, we got a viewer here, not a viewer. Okay, bear with me, folks. You're gonna go into the stratosphere, and I'm gonna move. I'm carrying on the video, but bear with me, all right? So I'm just gonna put you, here. Okay, here we go. I've taken you on a journey because I had another clown pull up next to me with his radio on. I guess he doesn't know, but it's not even the thing of not knowing. They don't observe their situation. They see someone's on a call. I guess he doesn't know I'm doing YouTube. Okay, so bear with me, folks. I'm here. I'm taking you to another location where we'll continue the video, hopefully this time in peace. But yes, Bitcoin, will it go down the Swanee? It's looking likely. It's looking likely. President Trump has said about Bitcoin, saying that they'll kind of keep it as a strategic reserve. Whether that's optics or not, time will tell. But one option on this is Bitcoin, and to let all the other markets kind of follow. But then there will come a point where all the snow will fall, crypto snow will fall into the valley, and then where does it go? It goes into those other coins, the X coins. I know there's Algorand and other coins that are ISO, with different names alphabetically, but 3 of the big ones are the X coins. So, anyway, all right, we are nearly at the new location, folks. So, you're still with me. Yeah, here we go. All right, this should be a bit better. We at least won't be able to have people pulling up next to me, doing their thing. So here we go. How about this? I think we should be good here. I'm going to pull up next to a palm tree. There you go. How's that? How's that, folks? Back in. Okay. You could hear me while that was going on. So, yeah, Bitcoin. So I was looking at the numbers on what was said about will Bitcoin go to, well, saying Bitcoin will go to effing zero. And those numbers correlate. So Bitcoin will go to effing zero comes to 320 in numbers. Bitcoin will go to effing comes to 256, which comes to 2025. 064, which is Tenet, and that comes to 320. So it correlates with a number of things that I've mentioned in the past. So the sneakers video with the Robert Redford in it, and Joaquin Phoenix, River Phoenix is in it. I didn't realize that until today. And they talk about basically stopping the Federal Reserve, and up flashes on all these pieces of code, a bit kind of matrixy. There's a bit where it says XRP, and it says it says 262.0. So 262 comes to the phrase death to the triumvirate, which is Q post 205. 205 is my grandmother's full name, Eileen Mary Adelaide Wood. It's her birthday 2 days ago. I put a tweet out to her yesterday. And then there's a picture of Ivanka, the beautiful Ivanka, and it all started with Ivanka for the numbers, with the numbers for me. And sneakers is 92, numbers, reverse 92, Manhattan 92, the Joker 92. But it's Q post 205, which is on November 22nd, which ties in with the ISO, when it's supposed to be that ISO is fully operational on the SWIFT system. And it looks like, from some reports, that the SWIFT system that will be the end of it. Probably a transition, but who knows? It might just be instant. It might just be instant, folks. And that's next Saturday. There's a Gradual X up there in the sky. A quite faint one, but still quite nice. There. It's also the Tenet Square, which is Arepo, Opera, Sator, Rotus plus Tenet comes to 320. 320 comes to John Fitzgerald Kennedy Jr., which comes to John Fitzgerald Kennedy Justice, John Fitzgerald Kennedy Truth, John Fitzgerald Kennedy Stellar coin. Liberty Enlightening the World comes to 320, which is the full name for the Statue of Liberty, and the numbers started for me at that point. That's a hub of energy, is Manhattan and that tip of the island. And then will Bitcoin go to effing zero? Bitcoin will go to effing zero, which was declared many years ago. That comes to 320 as well. So Something's brewing, folks. Something is brewing. And it's amazing how things start to pop up. I mean, I did say that back in August about who could be the character that could plunge Bitcoin and pull the plug. And I said it was Epstein. And it looks like it is. And then for all of the fucking trollers out there, get a life, clear off. Because you don't know what you're talking about. I do, and my audience do, but all the trolls don't, so they can F off. I've said it before, we know where the goal is. You can put the ball in 100 different places, but we know where the goal is. Others on this plane have no idea that there's even a goal that exists, and they're way over in another dimension of reality. But here on Psych Club with Tom Numbers, we talk truth, and it pops up continually. Just last week, someone found it brilliantly, pointed it out that Bushnell Avenue is the street for all the characters that live in Back to the Future. Biff Tannen, Lorraine Baines, and probably George McFly. I didn't even know that until then. And then Bushnell Theatre out in the States is showing a live version of Back to the Future. So my point is, we know what we're talking about. And because it's a quantum, and because it's hidden, some of it's hidden for the higher purposes, but we're given enough to get us through. And so when you're following me, you're in good hands. So I want to thank my audience. And thank those in the timeline. Because like I said, I do know the gentleman that declared that Bitcoin will go to effing zero. And it's amazing how things come back round, you know. So things come back round. 200 plus 78 is the currency revaluation. 278, and someone very important, 278. Hey Matthew, good to see you. So, as we keep going further down the track, inevitably we get to the destination that we're going to. And it's comforting for us. That's why the Q posts were created. That's why the synchronicities and the Easter eggs are put in the films. That's why we get the downloads. It's to help those that are awake. It's to sustain us. We're an army. We're a digital divine 5-dimensional soldiers. And we're here on Earth. And because we're in the 3D plane, some of it doesn't make sense. Sometimes we can't escape the bufferings, unfortunately. But by and large, we're blessed and we're grateful to be in the position we're in. But we keep moving forward. Don't let your light hide under a bushel. A bushel. Up on the mountain top peaks, there's, you know, the hills behind me. We set fire to the top of the mountain. We send the signal and it gets to the next one. And that's what we've been doing. We're connecting the dots. We're peering around corners using the gematria periscope and other threads and other things. And so, let's see. Does Bitcoin go to zero? There's always the chance that they use that as part of the narrative to do whatever they've got to do. But there's also a very good chance, and I'd say very likely, that will go. That will get flushed out, and that will be part of the draining of the swamp. Swamp is Bitcoin, 72. Money, 72. First is 72. Is Bitcoin the first thing to go? It could well be. It makes sense. There's plenty of evidence in the thought field, in the timeline, to suggest that that's the case. And I've given you things today to suggest that. Paul's watching, my cousin, 208 in the chat. Paul Dennis Bushnell. And then 87 is truth, justice. So Paul's just telling us what I'm telling you is true. My cousin, Paul Bushnell, comes to 262, which is the code in the Sneakers film, 262, plus 58 XRP Ivanka. So my numbers started coming to me, which coincided with the death of my cousin Paul and when I met Ivanka in Manhattan. And people that know my story from the beginning will know that's the case. And so it's very fitting that it's both of them two together that create the code 320, which is liberty enlightening the world, which is the Statue of Liberty. And the numbers came to me on that stretch of water from the tip of Manhattan, basically from ground zero out to the Statue of Liberty. That's when I started getting the numbers. That's when they started. And it all coincided with the death of my cousin Paul, and when I met Ivanka in Manhattan. And in a roundabout way, well, in a kind of pretty direct way, the guy that's talking about a Bitcoin going to effing zero was a factor in me being in Manhattan at that time. So everything's working out, folks. Everything's working out. But this week could be really significant. There's another thing I think with DeFi on the 17th tomorrow. There's been the EFTs. The way it looks like things are kind of brewing, they're lining things up, and then there will be a moment where it flips, where things go. But definitely next weekend should be interesting with the F1 races. And maybe there'll be stages, there might be tranches of RVs, you know. It might be that Bitcoin goes first, moves into other coins, might go into other, you know, we're going to other things as well, other commodities and stuff, but because the money will go somewhere. You would think. You would think it would go somewhere. And even if everything goes to zero, if you're in a correct asset class, i.e. proper crypto coins, proper commodities, precious metals, if you're in those, even if everything goes to zero, I don't know if it will, but if everything went to zero, maybe, I don't know, some will say, oh, you can't do that economically. Not really too bothered about economics. I am, but I'm also not, because I've seen many strange things. President Trump did the whole thing of magic wand in 2020 in Corona and said about negative oil. He made negative oil, didn't he? And the same guy that talked about Bitcoin going to effing zero, who knew Trump in, you know, many years ago, he talked about either oil going to zero or even negative, and then Trump did it. Trump did it. He did it. He made negative oil happen. So things could go to negative. They could go to zero and they could go to negative. So anything's doable, folks. I'm not an economist, but we're not working on the same rules anymore, which ultimately is a good thing, because that is how they're able to drain the swamp and get rid of all the trash and get it out. So hit the hype button if you would, folks. We need a bit of help with this. I think when they're talking about Epstein and Bitcoin, YouTube is not liking it. Same with Twitter. You can't post. You're not able to share the Q posts, like the direct links, which is an interesting one. So, as with all of this, it's never totally cut and dry. It's always graded. But that's an interesting one I've noticed before. I've tried to share direct Q post links, and you can't do it. You can share screenshots and refer to them, but you can't actually post it. YouTube, Twitter won't let you. Come on, Elon. Look out there, folks. There it is. So yeah, please hit the hype button. That would be great. Yeah. What timeline are we in? I mean, I saw a tweet today. Someone was saying that all these different countries have different actual calendars that they're in. Like, I think they said, was it China, Singapore, Japan? There was a whole bunch. There's about 10 of them, and they're all in different timelines. Ethiopia was the closest. It was like 2018 apparently. But then they're saying that AI, the Google search, it keeps it away from everyone, that knowledge. I haven't researched it, but that's what someone put up. So no wonder people are a bit confused about what's going on. I mean, yeah. So, yeah. It is exciting. It's an exciting time. So, I mean, as we keep going forward, we get closer, and that's obvious to say, but we do. We get closer bit by bit, day by day. We're getting closer to the inevitable. Yeah. Another thing that this gentleman, when he said about he said 100. He said 100. He didn't say 100%. He said 100%. 100%. Talking about Bitcoin going to zero. 100% comes to 100 is 74 gematria. Percent is 81. Tower, cousin, dollars, Zimbabwe. You add those together, that comes to 155, which is singularity, which is coronavirus, which is the millennium. Excuse me. So things are on track, folks. We're on time. things are moving forward. So this week will be really interesting to observe and to see what happens. Yeah, well, people talking about people being fed scripts. I think, well, I've noticed it. My mate Matt Letizia, the footballer, we talked about this quite a while ago, that our feeds are kind of algorithmic as well. So if that's something that comes up on my feed might not come up on yours, you know, even when we do searches. So it's like, I mean, who's doing that? I think there's a bad component and a good component. We find things that we're supposed to, but also we're kind of maybe cut off from things that it's fluid. It's a fluid, moving game, and that's, yeah, you feel many different emotions during this, and maybe that's part of the point. Maybe that's part of it. I've got a girl walking along in some checker pants, like trousers, with her fella. The finishing flag. Maybe that's a sign that we're close to the finish. We've got the F1 races, so we've got Vegas, and we've got Qatar, and then we've got Abu Dhabi, which is mentioned in the F1 film. And it's mentioned in Now You See Me, Now You Don't, where there's a redistribution. They'd say, right in the first few minutes, we're going to redistribute this wealth from crypto. So that's kind of pointing to a corrupt thing like Bitcoin, and saying it's going to be redistributed amongst the people. And one of the women in the one of the girls in the film, she gets that redistribution, and she says she got $50,000. So does that mean that's the price of a coin? Does that mean that's kind of a Jasara thing that people get a bonus at Christmas? I don't know, but they're pointing to something. They're pointing to some things that are about to take place. So sit back and enjoy the show. Be ready. Be ready for whatever you think is going to happen. That's about the best you can do. You can just kind of prepare in the way you think you can, and then off you go. But ultimately, and I've said this before and I'll say it again, I think when we go into the new system, I do believe that resources and money will be as readily and freely available as air. Air is one thing they didn't control. They tried to. Think of the metaphor with this, with Corona, etc. But thankfully, we're still able to breathe. I think that was the one point in time where they tried to control that. And the way I see it, ultimately, in a higher level of reality, a fifth dimension, then I think resources, money will become as interchangeable as air. And I think everyone will have equal access. I mean, if you're in the fifth dimension, it shows that you're a decent person. And therefore, there won't be corruption, there won't be thieving, there won't be lying, there won't be murder, there won't be wars, there won't be any of the negative crap. And at one point, one level, you think, well, is it even necessary for money per se? But if it's as fluid as air, then why not? You know. And the more transactions, the more interchangeability, connection between the nodes on the blockchain, on the human blockchain, the ledger, then more wealth is created. That's how it happens, you see. Economy slow down because of stagnation, like human bodies slow down because of stagnation. Whereas when you're vibrant and energy is being exchanged, because that's what it is, then the sum total of that part of that energy system, the entropy of that energy system, will increase. Hang on, I need to check. I always get an entropy, the measure of disorder, isn't it? That's what it is. So the measure of a disorder, so the reverse entropy, basically. You know what I'm saying? The total energy of that system, financially, abundantly, consciously, will increase, and that's the purpose of it. And I think that's why they're making this system. And as I said a few days ago, deoxyribonucleic, which is your DNA, is 184. The fifth dimension is 184. Fourth density is 184. Princess of Wales is 184. And also smart contracts is 184. It's the smart contracts, the blockchain, the fifth dimension, and our DNA. They're all the same numbers. There's a clue there, folks. There's a clue there. Artificial intelligence has jumped on exponentially since the election, because artificial intelligence is Trump out of the deal. 203. That's what it is. Hey, Kevin. Coins like XRP and XLM may drop with Bitcoin initially, but there's also a very high possibility that they'll go zooming up in the other direction, because that money from Bitcoin, if it goes through the floor, I mean, Bitcoin does wag the tail, but that's just on a kind of 3D observable thing, you know. Ultimately, when you know what the utility of the other coins are, then that money will go into those coins. So it might happen simultaneously, or it might happen just, you know, once a crash occurs and then that money filters in. So even if things like the good coins go way down, it's a good time to buy. And it's also, just hold on. President Trump said never sell your crypto. Excuse me, he said never do that. Excuse me. Because he knows the value of them. And whether there's a remedy for Bitcoin, I don't know. But it's seeming to indicate that something's going to happen to it and it will fall through the roof. It will fall through the floor. So, and the avalanche, you know, avalanche at the top, Bitcoin, all the other coins, and then XRP, XLM, XDC, others down at the bottom. And then the money from the top of the mountain falls down, it melts. Ice is at the top, ice is Q17, it falls into water, water is 67, exchange liquidity, and it goes into those assets. And others, you know, will go into precious metals and other things. But, so that'd be my tidbit of advice. If things completely fall through the roof, fall through the floor, the plug is pulled, and the swamp is drained. Swamp is 72, Bitcoin 72. Then just hold on to those assets. 272 is temporal pincer movement, and 132 is Princess Diana, the Prestige. Sinkhole 39. We've still got other sinkholes to appear. The one that appeared 10 days after I predicted it, I don't think that's the only one. In fact, I know it's not the only one, it can't be, there'll be others. But it was nice to get that confirmation 10 days later. 10 is 39 in numbers, Sinkhole's 93, add them together is 132, the life of Chuck. And we got 262 in the chat now, which is the marker on the XRP in sneakers, which is also my cousin Paul Bushnell 262, which is also Death to the Triumvirate 262. So anyway, there we go, folks. Some Sunday thoughts. If you enjoyed the show, if you want to send a PayPal, we used to do PayPal Sunday lunches, so tonight is Sunday. But if anyone wants to send a PayPal lunch, links are below for PayPal, and I'll thank you in the chat tomorrow. And thank you for those that sent a few days ago. I sent you a nice personal message on PayPal thanking you for it, so thank you, I appreciate that. Great. Take care, Keena, and everyone else. And is there one in Dorking? Really? Send me some more information on that. Dorking. I need to. There we go. I'll take a note of that. I'll look that one up. Dorking. Thanks, Melissa. Thanks, Winthorpe. God bless everyone. Take care, folks. I'll see you tomorrow. All right. Hit the hype button. Much love.